because we're going live there now.
2 minutes until showtime.
Yep, we're live. So anything we say will be heard.
What? We're live on YouTube?
We're live on YouTube.
Well, hello there, YouTubers. I was just, we'll wait to give them.
We'll wait and let Blog Talk get started, and then the show officially start.
All right, well, let me get on the live stream so I can see the chat. Let me see.
We've already got somebody in our chat, too. Luke Skywalker.
All right, it's not echoing too bad. I'm going to actually turn down my volume a little bit. Let's see. All right, it's not echoing too bad. I'm going to actually turn down. Let's see. I'm going to talk now, see if I can hear a difference. Let's see.
1 minute until showtime.
Let's see. I'm going to talk now, see if I can hear a difference. Yeah, it doesn't seem to work too well.
Well, you don't want the volume on your side anyhow, because that will cause feedback.
Well, no, I was talking to the echoing because that comes through on that side. So I'm gonna turn the volume down totally now. But it's just tough to get rid of my echo because the way I come through on it's not your fault. It's just the way it comes through. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, like I got my mic as far away from the speakers as I can get it. I'm turning my hair just to try to.
Well, you got to be able to hear too.
Oh yeah, well, I'm still here regardless.
It's just it's a freaky system how we got to find a better way of doing this, so it doesn't have to go through like this, So.
Well, we got two platforms going at once too, so.
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, and welcome back to another night show up on Blog Talk. We're over on YouTube Live as well, and I have Jerry here. Tonight's Jerry's night, and welcome aboard, Jerry.
What's going on, Bill? What's a good word?
Oh, well, we're having another night, ain't we? Lots going on in the world, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, we had to change the whole boots on the ground thing, which kind of stinks, but, we gave it a fresh look, and, at least now it shouldn't have any problems.
Yeah. Well, I don't do the Facebook thing too well, so, that's one of them social network sites, and me, I don't like social network sites, so I always avoided them. But a few years back, I was sort of trapped into opening one, even if I didn't want one. And I'm hardly ever on my Facebook account to begin with. If I am, it's only for a couple minutes at a time, a couple of times a day, the majority of the time. And so, I'm in and out, and that's it. I don't even go there. I don't know too much about Facebook. So I had to count on Jerry to help me out with that one, because he knows a little more about that than I do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we got it straight now. I mean, we can let everybody know that it's boots on strong. So the whole boots on the ground thing is kind of gone. But that's because on Twitter it wasn't available, and Facebook there's like 100 pages about boots on the ground. So boots on strong, we pretty much own, which is a good thing, So it should make it easier for people to find us. And again, on Facebook, make sure you go on there and like and follow Boots on Strong. Okay, and then on Twitter, it's at Boots on Strong, all one word. And that will find, get you where you need to be.
And there you go. Now, tomorrow night, I'll be up here again live. Tomorrow night, we'll be dating scene topics for like Luke Skywalker there. TFL is real. Yes, TFL is real. There's no doubt about that. But tomorrow night's topic will be dating scene topics. And tonight is Jerry's night. And I think Jerry has something he wants to talk about. So that's what we're going to go with tonight.
Well, the other thing I want to start talking about tonight is, sometimes you have to listen to the disinfo agents and, those type of people. And, I heard David Steele, and I'm listening to him talk, and, talking about the Vegas shooting and everything. And, of course, it's a false flag, this and that and everything else. And I remember the first time David Steele came on the scene, he was hesitant to even talk about the false flags because, that's not where they want you to go. But once, it was understood that there's people out here that understand that these things are going on, you got to take control of that whole crowd. And he's sitting there talking about how people died and this and that and everything else. And if you're a CIA op, you know that nobody died because that's how these things run. And I don't care what other people think. People can think whatever they want. That's your own brainwashed self. I can really care less. I understand how these things work. We've studied them. Until you actually have gotten that deep into them, don't tell me any different because you don't know. Until you've actually seen these operate around you. It is a joke. Anyways, but the pandering for the tool, Bill, the money, he needed all this money to do this cross country thing. He was going to change the world, this and that, and all he did is get enough money to buy a RV, and never heard anything about his whole on-rig thing, and now you don't even hear about it anymore. But of course, he's got a new RV. That's how these CIA guys work. They don't give a shit. They're just going to steal your money. And that's the crazy thing. And I'm feeling guilty about asking for $100 to make sure I have enough gas to get down to the Sandy Hook protest. And this guy's stealing an RV. It's the world we live in. It's the world we live in.
What do you think of our commenter here, our last one from Holly?
From what was that, Bill?
Look at the comments.
I didn't see. Let me see here. It doesn't.
Are you on the live chat?
Hey, Mayor and Napimo. Oh, well, that mayor's lying. Yeah, and then you know what, Corey Feldman. I was really hoping there was going to be some good coming out of him. And then when he turned around and asked for $10 million. I was like, you gotta be shitting me. There's people struggling out there, and this kid's acting, he wants to make a movie about this stuff. You know what? Just spit out the truth. Don't need the $10 million. You know what? If you just come out with the truth, I believe in good karma. Good will come to you.
Well, that's just it. I think, he should be spitting out the truth over and over and over nonstop. Why do you worry about, I need to make a movie?
Yeah. It's bullcrap. You need not only a movie. I mean, there's plenty of even $50,000, $100,000 low budget films that can be made really well if you're creative enough. But a $10 million movie, is that necessary? I mean, does he need to hire freaking Tom Cruise? I mean, to do acting, he's gonna hire somebody else to play his part. I mean, what the heck? Really, $10 million?
No, I didn't see his act. I mean, Holly says, "Did you see his act on the Today Show?" Now I don't watch TV, so I wouldn't have seen it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. It's all an act. I mean, this stuff it's becoming to be bullshit. I mean, we know that kind of thing goes on in Hollywood, and whether he got strong armed or whatever else, and now he's just going to ask for $10 million. I mean, it's just ridiculous. These people are, he's already going to get $200,000 in donation. When the police robbed my house, I've got a total of $500 in donations. And I don't cry about it. I don't push for more or anything else like that. It's a joke. It's a joke. You want $10 million for a movie. People want. What they're doing is they're robbing them. They're no good. They're no different than these crisis actors that are just fleecing America for all their money.
Yeah. Look at how much the crisis actors on Sandy Hook Elementary School made alone. There was a lot of money on that false flag. A lot of money. That's what it was all about.
And now there's still the permanent. Did we talk about it last week? I think just this week is when I really looked into it. The permanent memorial for Sandy Hook. They got. I think it was like 4 acres preserved. ready, and now they're taking designs to um, see who wins the best design for the Sandy Hook Memorial. They want to build a permanent memorial for a false flag for something that didn't happen, memorializing kids that didn't die. That's ridiculous.
It is.
It's ridiculous. And people are still concerned about this Vegas thing and everything else. And yeah, it is important. But we need to start stopping these big things that they're doing when they're starting to stamp. They're putting a stamp on these false flags saying, hey, this really happened. Ha ha. We're going to make sure that people in the future all know. So, 100 years from now, if they got this permanent memorial in Sandy Hook, people that happen to pass through and never got to hear the story straight, they're going to be, oh, these poor kids.
Oh, that's exactly it. When no kids died, there could be all these poor children, and what Holly just said here, I didn't see it on TV, but so funny. Sad, actually, they're trying to profit off the victims of sexual abuse. Well,
Yeah.
that's exactly it. They're wanting to profit off the victims of sexual abuse, and at the same time, they're in your damn school systems trying to promote masturbation and sex to children.
And this is I don't know how far. I mean, I should even go with this, but here's the tough part. Okay, and I'm sure Corey probably was abused and everything else. But you want to know what the people, they're all tested in those type of situations because that's a predator type of situation. So everything I've read about them, the predator's going to test out the prey. So if that prey doesn't go along with what the predator wants, that predator's just going to move along to another prey. So, in other words, Corey at one time most likely gave in to a lot of this stuff. Not saying that it was right or, it was wrong or anything else like that. I'm just saying, that all these Hollywood people, whether they were victims or not, they weren't the ones that are the heroes are the ones that said, no, that shouldn't, that decided to not become, famous for this.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's like it's the old scenario is this. It's like with Bill Cosby. All these women come up and said that he had sexually assaulted them. The problem I have with that is if somebody sexually assaults you, you're not going to wait for years to come up and say, "Oh, well, I'm a victim." You know?
Well, we know that one was a whole psyop. The whole Bill Cosby thing was a psyop. That was the Jewish people putting pressure on him because he wanted to buy NBC, and he was, believe it or not, Bill Cosby knows the truth. I don't know if you ever saw. There's a movie he did back in the '70s. It might have been the '80s, where he basically tells the whole history of blacks, and it's a really well done documentary, and it's intelligently done, and he basically tells the truth. And I think a lot of that he went through in later years is payback for this, because you got to remember he got into a lot of heat when Martha Stewart and him were kind of did a shady investment where they were, caught in some insider trading. Now, this stuff goes on every single day. It was even involved in the um, Las Vegas false flag. Yet there's nobody even looks into it. They only look into people they want to go after. They only dehumanize people that they want to go after. Now, here's the other side of it. When it comes to Martha Stewart, because she lived not too far from where I did in Connecticut, she is kind of a dirtbag. Everybody knows her as a dirtbag. So that I do got to say, Martha Stewart is well known as a kind of a slimy person. But Bill Cosby, I think he got caught up in a lot of stuff that he may not have really, that had been planned. Because these people, you got to remember, these are the same people that are still imprisoning Sirhan Sirhan for Bobby Kennedy's death, when we know that he, didn't fire the kill shot, and that he was a victim of MK Ultra. Matter of fact, if people go online, they can find out that the Kennedy family actually hired an attorney, their best friend attorney, the family attorney, to represent Sirhan Sirhan and try to get him out of jail, and they still can't get him out of jail. So people need to understand that. I just imagine that the Kennedy family, hired their attorney, who was one of the best attorneys out there, to get Sirhan out of jail for supposedly killing Bobby Kennedy, because they know he didn't fire the kill shot, and they know he was a part of the MK Ultra program, that he was actually a Manchurian candidate, and they don't blame him for it
Yeah.
because they actually hired psychologists, their own personal psychologists, to go there and talk to him, and so they truly believe that Sirhan is not at fault for this. That anything that he did act on wasn't his own faculties. That was programmed into him. I mean, goes back to the story of the lady in the polka dot dress.
Yep.
And it's sad. When you got the Kennedy family saying, "All right, you got to let this guy out of jail because he didn't kill Bobby," and we're paying all these, this shitload of money to get him out, and the prison system's just keeping him in. That's sickening. These are the kind of people that we're dealing with. They control a system like this.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't be surprised if the Bushes hired Hinckley to murder Reagan. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised that a bit. The Bushes are in a lot of stuff. I mean, Bushes are
They're in the
behind
top
Kennedy's assassination, and the list just goes on and on.
Oh yeah, I mean, Hinckley was a family friend. The one that tried to shoot Reagan. He was a family friend of the Bushes. That's not even a hidden fact.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the fact that any of this JFK stuff that came out, still nothing implicating George Bush Sr. is a bunch of crap. We all know. Even when I was a kid, my father told me, yeah, this is before this stuff was even big in conspiracy world or anything else. And my father still is not into anything I talk about, but he always said, yeah, George Bush was involved in his death. George Bush did it. And that's what happened. I think from the research that Ole Demigard did, he's the paymaster for a group called Unit 40. And Unit 40 was the CIA's assassination group, and they carried out the assassination on Kennedy. And because of Bush's role in it, he got promoted throughout the CIA, made it all the way up to the top, and then became president for taking part in
Killing a president.
president.
So you you help kill a president, you get to be a president, huh?
Yeah, I mean, what's that all about? I mean, that's going beyond.
Yeah, we know there's an EMP drill set for the 4th, along with the anti-FIFA rally, or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
Now
they're. Go ahead, Bill.
Now the rally itself. I mean, you got George Soros setting that up, so that you want to keep your eyes on, because George Soros. I mean, I think Jerry should give you a little history on George Soros in case you don't realize it.
Yeah. Well, this last rally kind of failed. Somehow it didn't make it in the mainstream news. I don't know why they didn't put it in the news, but they had a rally in Tennessee, and it didn't really make the mainstream news. And I mean, that's good that they kept it out. But this could be just a class. Who's starting to control more of the media and who's not. Who threatened who to not put it in, or it's it's a silly thing. But people can't forget about this. I mean, they this whole New World Order group, they've always talked about that we're going to pin the groups against each other, and so these groups are always fighting each other, but they're never going to detract themselves from the goal, which is one world order. One. So it's either way, they're still going after that same goal, even though they're fighting at each other.
Yeah. Well, I think it's going to go on and on. I mean, but it's getting hard anymore to read what's not a psyops on your face, just to scare the hell out of you, and what's going to really happen.
Well, Hallie said something there. We know all about Soros. Here's one I bet you don't know. If you go on to, you get his address. His address. Actually, I can look it up for you real quick. I think it's 261, if I remember, Katana Street. What is it? If you get his address and you look it up in New York, okay, and you take a Google map little screenshot, and then what you do, okay, here it is. It's 136 Canatito Street, and that's Katana, New York. It's 136 CANTITOE Street and Katana, New York. Katonah, New York. Okay, so you take that address and you make a screenshot of that map and make sure it's zoomed out to include Manhattan in it. And then you take a map of Water Tunnel 3. It'll be a dotted line map because it's an unfinished tunnel. And then lay that over the screenshot you made, and you'll see that the tunnel makes an unusual turn and goes right into George Soros's property instead of going straight to the reservoir where it should be going. And that's kind of interesting because if you look at it at the time of 9/11, there was a tunnel under George Soros's house that you could fit a Mack truck in and drive all the way down to the Twin Towers and all the way back if you wanted to. And there would have been nobody in it. And let me tell you something. If you're a multi-billionaire, are you going to let somebody dig a giant water tunnel under your house? Nobody's digging anything under your house if you're a big, huge billionaire.
No, not unless you paid them or allowed them to.
Yeah. Why would you want them? Why would you even want that to happen under your house? Unless there was a reason. People don't understand this. How, people don't even understand what they really were searching for. And I don't even talk about what they're really searching for on 9/11, what they went for, what was 9/11 all about, because people don't even understand it. And it's kind of useless.
Yeah. I mean, once a false flag happens, regardless of what it is, what people should be focusing on is who's the ones behind it. And then what you got to focus on is how to bring these people to prosecution. And that's going to be hard to do in a corrupt society where the justice system's bought and owned.
Yeah.
Why do you think the Clintons are still running free and the Bushes are still running free and on and on? Dick Cheney's running free. And I mean, we could give a whole list of people who should be running free. They should have been locked up years ago.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but that's the thing. Who's going to arrest them when they're in control of everything? Like Haley said, there, all these places in D.C., everything in DC is connected underground. I looked up the tunnels in DC once. There's so many tunnels they've had to collapse tunnels so they could build tunnels through that tunnel. I mean, it's nothing but a big tunnel under DC. A maze of tunnels, and that's one thing. It's really a big clue to who these people are, because there was tunnels in Fairfield Hills Hospital near Sandy Hook. These people for some reason love their tunnels. Okay. And when you get to, you can track them through the Templars or whatnot. But there's this weird group of people. If you look through all the way into the Middle East, if you look Syria, there's a weird group of Syrians that are actually Jewish, and they literally have tunnels all over that Syria. I mean, there's tunnels in Israel that go to Syria, go all over the place, go to Egypt, you name it. I mean, these are tunnel people. They love their tunnels. They have their secret tunnels all over the world. And, you can always find out who these people are just by, tracking down some of these tunnels. They always have shady stuff. So, because, they love their tunnels because for some, when things are underground, you can't catch them for nothing. If you think about it, anything that, people are getting caught for doing something wrong or doing this or that, it's always above ground. When something ends up, if something happens or something's down underground, that's it. You can't catch these people. They do whatever they want, and it's very sick. But you can connect these people all over the freaking country, to the tunnels. There's always a tunnel. Wherever they do something shady, there's always a tunnel. Where something goes missing or people go missing or whatever it is, there's always a tunnel.
Yeah, there's a secret way of doing it right under your nose and under your feet.
Yeah, and you can bet your ass, even in Vegas, there's tunnels. You got to remember there's tunnels that go all the way up through the mountains in Vegas. Go into whatever place they're hiding out in. One of these research facilities or anything else. But these casinos, when they're moving laundry and everything else, they're all moving underground through the tunnels. I remember when I explored the tunnels in New Haven. I used to get in right near the Knights of Columbus building. It was an easy tunnel access. Now, let me tell you something. The tunnel access was so big that it had a ramp that you could drive a car into. So I mean, if you knew where it was kind of like a little hidden spot. It was pretty easy to get in. You know, the gates were always closed, but you know, every once in a while you could once see those old gates and stuff, you would break into them and stuff like that. But you know, I remember once, you know, when I was working at the rail station, we had access to it because we had to do some work near the Coliseum. And we drove right under the city, all the way up to the, you know, underneath New Haven Hotel, and then drove all the way back around and came all the way back out. And we were driving under the city, and nobody even knew that there's a road under the city. You know, yeah, so it's crazy. And you know, if you should look at even New York. New York's crazy with tunnels. You know, with all the people that live in the tunnels. There's people that have lived, you know, so many years in the tunnels that they, you know, they talk about how they go blind when they come out.
I could see where that would happen because if you're underneath ground so long like that and the lighting's shitty, whatever lighting you could get, it'd all be dark and your eyes would focus to that after enough time. And then if you came out with sunlight, that man, that would be blinding.
You there?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Oh, I lost you there for a second. Well, you know, it's almost like Plato's allegory of the cave. You know, where you know they kept people in captivity so long and made the little shadow figures on the wall, and you know sometimes they would laugh by the you know characters that were going on. Sometimes they would get scared, and then you know when one freed himself and tried to show the rest of the light, they got too scared of the light. You know, if they keep people underground, and that's why a lot of times you hear about these tunnels being tied to the MK Ultra project. If they keep people underground and keep them, you know, basically, you know, closed off to a, you know, and almost to the point where they forget there's a whole nother world. You know, that's they make themselves very susceptible to some serious brainwashing. So you know what? They all they have to do is pull these people back up. You know, and when they need them to do all this stuff, they always wonder where all these, you know, people wonder where all these crisis actors come from and everything else. Then you never see them again. Well, shoot, how many times have we heard about kids going missing and everything else? Well, whatever happened to them? What if they grew up? They just grew up in places we didn't know they grew up. You
Yeah,
know, and then next thing you know, they're being used. You know, and then all they have to do, and you know, disposable. So you know, to them, they can either just kill them or just throw them back down in the tunnel to a world that they're used to living in, into a cult that they're used to living in. You know, so you're wondering why these people never say anything because you know, try you know how hard it is to track down some of these these crisis actors. Only the big ones, that the names that they really push out there, are the ones you ever see again. Most of them kind of just disappear off the face of the earth.
you know, we talked about this here a few days ago, and what you got is they're hiring crisis actors from all over the United States, and they're busting them into where they're doing it, and then after they're through using them, they bust them back home.
Yeah, yeah.
So good
You know,
luck finding them.
I honestly think that they're not really hiring many crisis actors. They might hire them for the drill part of it that they do one day, and then they get some footage of them on one day and mix it up with the next day. But when it comes down to the actual crisis actors, the ones that are being interviewed and everything else, you know, I mean, they usually fit, you know, somewhat of the same type of profile. You could tell they have a lot of the same behaviors and mannerisms and characteristics and you know things like that. So you know they're all part of something that is similar, some kind of you know whether it's a cult or something like that. They're very involved in something similar because they have a lot of the same characteristics. You know, if they were totally different, you know, that would you know shine through. The problem is you can tell when they're being different that it's all an act. You know,
Yeah, it's pretty
you're
sad.
yeah. I mean, how often do you see an African American crisis actor? Very rarely.
Well, they keep the division alive and well when it comes to race, don't they?
Yeah.
Let's just knock the hell out of the black, discriminate against them because their skin's black, but it's no different than anything else in
Well,
society.
I honestly think a lot of it, the reason why they don't use African Americans is because I think because, you know, the African American community's been shit on for so much that if they tried to use an African American crisis actor, they'll be like, what are you, you're lying, mother. You know, they call them right out. They would just call them right out, you know? So, you know, I think that's one of the reasons. You know, honestly, I mean, in some cases, you know, I see that the you know the white mind is more moldable in a lot of cases. You know, it's a lot more malleable.
Well, that's not a good thing neither, though.
It's not a good thing for for anybody's mind to be manipulated. You know,
No.
but it is a problem. We've gotten to that point where it's and now people are talking about this new voice, voice from God technology, where they can send frequencies that are so strong that if they jive with your frequencies, you actually will think the thoughts are your thoughts when they're not even your thoughts. And that's been patented. So, what are you going to do?
Yeah, they place the thoughts in your head and you don't even know they did.
No.
All through frequency, and that's where I agree with Jerry totally. When the people keep saying they're coming for the guns, they're coming for the guns, I totally agree with him. They're not coming for the guns. They push that scare to sell guns, and it works because
Yeah.
everybody runs out and buys guns. They don't
No,
need
I
you
mean
don't need to come for the guns. They already have the
the
technology. I mean,
the more guns people have, the more excuses they have to shoot you.
yeah,
You
and
know.
then they've got weapons right now. I mean, you could have a whole army come at you, and they could probably down the entire army and just walk in and collect up the body, pick up the people and the guns, and take them off.
Oh, that's already been proven. They just drive up one of those new machines, they turn the sonic beam on, and they knock everybody down on the ground, crying and shitting their pants and everything else, because that's what it'll do. And that's all they need to do. People won't even have time to pull the trigger.
I mean, guns are nice for self-defense and for hunting if you need it for self-defense, but if you're going to beat these people, you're not going to beat them with guns. And if you do, you're going to have to go old guerrilla war style, and that's not going to be easy to do neither.
Yeah, you're gonna have to build you're gonna have to build some kind of Faraday cage around your house. Which can be done, believe it or not. It can be done, and it can be done. If you really want to be smart, just put screens on all your windows, and then um, take some fencing or some uh, doubled up chicken wire, and then put some drywall over it, and you have some chicken wire in between your walls, and you got yourself a Faraday cage. Once you cage yourself all in, then just make sure you ground the house really well. It'll help you out too. Then you don't even have to worry about an EMP.
Yeah. Well, that'd take a lot of money for a lot of people, but at the same time, it'd be worth it. You wouldn't have to worry about an EMP hitting your house.
No, no. But how many times we talked about this before? I mean, if they do an EMP, they're going to be prepared and ready to get things back up on grid quick because they need people tied to their technology. That's part of the whole brainwashing deal. They need you watching TV. They need you watching CNN. They need you, trapped in the bullshit. And if you take that away from people, they might actually communicate with other people. They might go down to the, local watering hole or talk to their neighbors or whatever. And then the last thing they want happening is you start communicating with local people, and one person that tells the truth can spread into maybe 10 or 12 people actually understanding the truth. As much as we think we're doing so much great work by putting all these truth memes out there, on Facebook, on Twitter, on other social media, you could do 10 times the damage by just talking to people in your local community.
Well, it's going to come down to that because with George Soros we're partnering with YouTube to put a stop to fake news. Well, we know that's a joke.
Well, yeah, they turned that around. Yeah, and that's the thing too. Is I mean, it's all much of a show. All you have to do is a little research on Donald Trump. You could, it's all a show that he's on the truth side and all this and that bullshit. His family's been part of the deep state since the deep state was the deep state.
Yeah.
He's deep into the deep state.
Well, I
You
see
know.
it coming to a point where you're going to literally have to leave your house and you're going to go out and intermene with other people and you're going to have to start talking and you're going to have to start pushing the truth that way because they're gonna come after anybody that's telling truth, and it's getting worse, and it's gonna get a whole lot worse because George Soros is involved with Google. You know what that means? They're gonna hire a whole bunch more people to be up online, and they're gonna go after anybody that's telling truth.
Yeah. Yeah, though Tommy Stock said there it works on something. You're right. There's, they've always known part of their brainwashing. There's going to be a small percentage that they just can't brainwash. They understand. They already understood this before they just started to, get as crazy as they have been. This is something that they've always understood. And also want to touch there, Luke Scholar, where talk about the tunnels in Vietnam. Yeah, the tunnels are all over the world, and something to go along with this. There's even tunnels in Afghanistan, but I want to bring up Afghanistan for a reason. Is people don't realize this. One of the most, ancient orders of the Masons and the Illuminati is, I believe, the group is called Orion in English, and they're out of Afghanistan. So, what's a group, an Illuminati group, an elite ancient Masonic group doing in Afghanistan? you know, People need to think about things like that. You know, are we really fighting a war there? Or is it just, bullshit for, this elite group to have more control there?
I think it's bullshit from them more control, and I think there's something there they're after resources of some type.
Yeah, well, they're after the lithium, and everybody says oil and everything else. No, Vietnam, no, Afghanistan has, well, like Vietnam, they have the opium, but they also have one of the largest lithium veins there is in the world. And we know they plan on switching to this new technology. That's why Saudi Arabia is selling off all their oil futures and all their cargo ships and everything else, because they're, all buying into lithium. They're looking for the lithium is what they want. They want everybody to be, distracted by the oil so they can steal all the freaking lithium in the world. Because as they switch to new technology, there's going to be a lot more, on the type of frequencies and everything else they're going to use. And, homes or people are going to need, storage before they use and this and that. It's going to be needed for future cars. It's going to be needed for everything. So, for people out there, if you really want to make money, sell everything you got in the stock market and just buy lithium. You'll be richer than hell. Not that I encourage people to care about money, but I'm just saying, if you're smart, you get rid of everything you got, and because it's all going to fall apart soon, and buy it into lithium, and you'll make a fortune.
Yeah, because I see it moving that way.
Yeah, it's going to move that way.
Eventually, I see them. I see it being a last minute thing because eventually I see them pushing an issue where people ain't gonna be able to get gas anymore, and they're gonna lock them down. And
Yeah,
they're not gonna be able to travel.
yeah.
Nah,
Well, that's they want to make the whole smart world. They want to have control of everything. And here's the thing: is I understand why. People. This is not just like a, one of those things. Oh, the world's gonna blow up. This, that, and everything else. I mean, this is a legitimate issue. Making it a smart city, smart everything, is something very important to them, so they can have control. You got to remember, in a world where they don't, where they always had the oligarchy, where they had control through, everything, through the fuel source. They're going to need, with the new age of technology, where people could figure out how to use energy themselves and everything else without the need for a fuel source. They need to have control of people, and they're going to need to know everything in the world about people. That's why places like China, this really did happen, and they are doing it right to today, where they have a point system. And if you have certain good behavior on social media, you get points. If you do things in the community good, you get points. Everything.
yeah. Well, they don't have to worry about having dumb people because we have a whole world full of dumb people. If you ever look around
Oh yeah.
yourself.
Yeah, I mean, you got to remember. I mean, they already know that. I think the percentage is somewhere between 8 and 12% are supposed to be the ones that they cannot brainwash. So they know that no matter what, that even if people wake up, they'll be able to put them back under some kind of brainwash spell or whatever the heck they got going on. That they roughly estimate this. So they only have to worry about 8 to 12%. Now it's around 10%. That percentage is gonna, that's always gonna be a battle with them. But as long as they can control that 10% by, making it difficult for like things like for me to be able to get out there and do a live show on YouTube and things like that, they're going to have control over it, So, the dumb people, they're not really too worried about it. There's going to be plenty of them, Everybody thinks they're going to wake everybody up. Well, I kind of actually believe the statistics by like the Brookings Institute, because I think, if I remember correctly, that's where I read it. And if you ever want to dig into stuff, read some of the things that the Brookings Institute wrote. I mean, they are basically one of the institutes for the CFR, for the Council on Foreign Relations, to do a lot of their research and their informational studies. So the amount of you're not going to wake everybody up. That's what it comes down to. They've already studied this. They already pretty much have figured that this is going to be the percentage. And as much as I've seen in the past years, I gotta say they're probably right about that. You know,
Yeah, because
you know,
it's crazy, Jerry. Because there's people that I know that used to appear to be waking up that have just gone back to sleep.
they have. You know, it's 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 unbelievable. And it's it's something they spoke about, and they're taking control over it. I mean, you got to look at the whole truth community. I mean, there's, we were talking. I was talking with somebody else out there, and I might have been Zach, or and somebody that there's probably a handful of people that actually really understand in the truth community what the hell's going on. And the rest, still want to think, Trump's going to save them, or Putin's going to save them, or, that that this person's not part of the this or that or anything else. And and let me tell you something: the people that are actually giving you the truth, the real truth, they are making it very difficult for. I mean, whether it was like me, that they came out there and freaking booted me out of the state of Michigan, stole everything I own, and every time I come on social media, I got to fight to, just to get a few words out there, and whether it's my YouTube views after the, when they do allow me to come on, and they, make sure that nothing I do ever goes viral. People don't understand, when they see something with 100,000 views or subscribers and the thousands, and these people came out of nowhere, it's bullshit. It's
Yeah,
straight up bullshit, because the people that are actually really giving you the truth, they do not allow them to do much at all. They
they
allow them to do just enough so that they don't, they like to keep people like me, and well, we'll let him do a few things. That way he doesn't actually get out there and, do things out in public. they so they have their tricks too. But when it comes to these people, anybody you watch that is got more than 10,000 views on a video and doesn't get struck down or shut off, it's bullshit. There's not one person out there that I know that's not bullshit like that. Maybe the Corbett report, that's probably about it. I haven't seen really anybody else, and he hasn't gotten to too much of the shit either, because he gets into some of the stuff they can't really go after him for, because it's just a headache.
well,
It's a straight up headache.
that's just it, And if you accidentally get something out there, I accidentally got something out there that got like 26,000 views in a week.
And
But
what I
then
say, they're gonna hit you, and what did they do?
exactly, exactly. And that was pure accident. Sometimes they have no
Yeah,
control over something. People get a hold of it and they run with it, and they can't stop that. But that don't
yeah.
happen very often. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, that's what it is. That one video that almost hit 100,000 views in one day, and they shut me down right after it happened. As soon as they shut me down, as soon as it about hit 100, they shut me down and said, "You're gone for 2 weeks." And I said to you, Bill, I said, "Oh yeah," I said, "Watch it. You don't want to go viral, because as soon as you do, you're gonna get hit for something." It didn't get hit for that video, but it
Oh
hit.
yeah. And,
They
I,
find
and,
a
I, and
way.
the thing is I knew that was going to happen anyhow because I've been here before. I think I
Yeah.
pretty much got them. I can't say for sure, but I know this. I figured this out a long time ago. It's like for every view I get on YouTube, it takes like 10 to 20 people to earn one view, if
Oh
not
yeah.
more. Because they've changed the system for people like myself or Jerry or anybody that's actually hitting real truth. When you start hitting real truth, they're going to censor you down. And they're not going to let you run. They're going to keep pressing you down and pressing you down. And I tested them years ago on a live blog talk show. And I deliberately, I actually set Google up. And the idiots fell for it. And that came to do with TFL. When I first give the name TFL, It didn't matter what search engine you went to, True Force Loneliness did not exist. It was not found. Well, within a couple of years, it was up to over 11 million search results on it. Pretty good from zero, huh? Well, I tested it, and I told Dwayne that night when we went on the show. I says to him, they're censoring the numbers, and he's all right. And he's and I says, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to test it tonight. I'm going to tell people to go ahead, and I went ahead and Google searched, and then I Yahoo searched True Force Loneliness, and we screen captured it, the actual search results for how many hits you got on it, how many numbers. And I told Dwayne I'm going to announce that on the show and have people do this. And I says, and I'll bet you before the end of the show or by after the show, we'll go check it, and I'll bet you the numbers will change. Well, it went from over 11 million views to under a million views just that quick.
Well, yeah, it happens all the time. I had somebody the other day, sitting there telling me, I just hit like on your video, and it had one less like than before I hit it. But that stuff happens, and we don't need to tell everybody all the time because people can. I don't think most people really care that what kind of stuff we have to deal with just to get the truth out there. But I think it's important for people to know because they got to understand how much bullcrap is out there. And I don't care if you watch me or listen to me or whatever, as long as you're listening to something that's the truth. But people need to recognize, be able to have the understanding. All right, a lot of people. It took me a while. I was at first when I saw Monograph, I said, well, maybe he might be all right. And then as I learned more and more about him and saw more and more of his bullshit, it was obvious. And a lot of these people, and it's tough to decipher these people out here because they got some people that are good at what they do, to deceive you. And you also, just because you believe you're awake doesn't mean that you can't admit, oh shoot, I was deceived again. You have to have the ability to say, you know what, shit, I was deceived, and now I have to start searching for the truth somewhere else.
Yeah,
It's not always easy to do.
you've got so many people out here lying to you, so many. And when you do find the real truth, you most likely you're going to find they don't got a lot of views because they're being censored down, they're being pushed down.
Yeah, well, I mean, the truth is never going to be super popular. That's something we have to deal with. It's tough. It's really, really is tough. I mean, I started learning more about, the real history and the real meanings behind a lot of the Bible stories and everything else. And, it's tough when you live in a world where people are trapped by what they've been told for so long. And it's tough to, bring them out of that spell. You got to remember when it comes to, especially I've come across the trolls and everything else, I felt bad for some that I've come across. Once I researched and found out who they are and realized that they had mental illnesses and everything else, you got to think about all the brainwashing, all the things that have gone on to us. Think about how strong, that type of social engineering and everything else has left an impact on people that have some mental issues. It has a bigger impact on them. And there's been a couple of times where I came across trolls and I actually just legitimately felt sorry for them because you could see how sick they were. And it's a really tough situation. We live in a world where our government, where our secret societies, where our religions will use people and they don't care who they use. They are not some super space alien elite, but they treat everybody else like they are lesser than them. You know, and it's they treat the human being as if it was not important to them at all. And that's a shame.
Yeah, I don't personally have really any favorite channels on YouTube. Uh, okay, if I was going to say my favorite would be probably Jerry.
Well, yeah, I don't even like my show.
But I don't have no what you would want to call favorite channels. I'm constantly digging and I'm constantly looking, and sometimes if I get too stressed, I'll take my mind off it and just watch America's Funniest Videos just for the laugh for a little bit, and then I'll go back to it again.
You got to, that's the thing is, I mean, you can't focus on everything because, even some of the whether it was every once in a while, there is a legitimate National Geographic show or something like that. Most of them are crap. Most of them are all bullshit. But every once in a while, there's some legitimate stuff. You have to be able to decipher anything because you got to remember most of these disinfo people, they give you some truth to lead you down the wrong path. So you have to be able to, get that truth and take it and throw out all the other crap.
Yeah, well, I know what he's saying. Once upon a time, he was a political port.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you get caught up in it, it would be easy to be. It would be easy to become that way.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's tough when you actually get once you start really waking up and you get really awake. You be watching something and you see the BS right in your face, and then you get just frustrated or what have you. You might change to something else, and then what did you see? More BS in your face. More BS in your face. More BS in your face.
We live in a world of BS. I mean, people got to understand. It's not just recently that these things have been going on. Now that a lot of people are awake out there, you're starting to see all these things around you happening because you are awake. But you got to understand, this is how it's always been. This is not anything new. Have these things been ramped up recently? Yes. But believe it or not, the hoaxes, the fake mass shootings, the fake all this other shit, fake news stories have been going forever. This is not a new thing. The news media in America got invented under bullshit. Edward Bernays was working with the what fruit company? He was employed by I can't remember one of the fruit companies that did most of their farming down in Ecuador, and the U.S. government wanted to overthrow the Ecuadorian president. And they hired Bernays, and Bernays created a false media company, and they acted like a Reuters, and they fed all their news to the mainstream news, and the mainstream news took it, and so when basically since TV's been around, it's been bullshit. Every TV, believe it or not, whether you like it or not, there is people that work for the government. That's how they get paid, and that's their news has to be verified at every new major news station in this country through those people. They're the editors, and they're the program directors of these stations, and they sign non-disclosure agreements with their Central Intelligence Agency, or actually, I think if I remember correctly, it was done through the U.S. Army. Believe it or not, so this is actually an Army intelligence operation. Is our news, you know, and it's not easy for people to accept that. Nobody wants to think that their news is controlled by the U.S. Army, but it is. So it's not always easy to accept, but you have to accept it so you can understand the lies. You think about something that may have happened in a city near you, where there was a gunshot victim, or something crazy happened and never made in the news. Well, you might think to yourself, well, why didn't it never make in the news? Well, because if they make up stories, they can control the story, they can control the narrative. So a lot of times the bigger stories are definitely made up, and people don't want to accept that.
Yeah.
They don't, especially if they happen close to you. And that's something I told you before. There is some kind of weird thing when there's a false flag or a hoax or bullshit. People that are closest to that incident, and as far as locality, have the most trouble accepting it, because it's that's part of their community. Now, this will never happen in my community. This will never happen in my community. Well, I'm sorry, it does. It happens all across the United States, especially if the police are involved, because now the way they do it is for these police departments to get these grants from Homeland Security, because a lot of these towns don't have the tax revenue that they used to have, because the numbers, they're not telling the truth about the numbers on unemployment and everything else. So to get this money to keep up their police departments, they're taking these Homeland Security grants, and these Homeland Security grants come with a little stipulation. So these drills oftentimes are just drills, but sometimes they take them live, and that's when the other grants kick in. But believe it or not, anywhere in a mid-sized city to a large city, it's not just that these things or these type of grants from Homeland Security for them to practice this type of crisis situations have happened. I guarantee they've already happened multiple times. You may or may not know of it, but they have happened multiple times. And some of the smaller local towns and cities, there's a good chance that you might not. If you have one or two police officers in town, they're not really doing too much with them.
No, I would say, most of the time you notice your false flags normally don't happen in small communities. Not that it can. I mean, Sandy Hook Elementary School was a small community.
Well, that was always a sleeper community, so I don't think that really counts as the same.
Yeah, how many of you out here know what a sleeper community is?
I don't think. I'm not sure if people are even ready to accept that these things are, in this community or in this country, that they have these cities. It's not easy for people to accept that they have, cities throughout this country that they just experiment on people and experiment. There's basically an experimental city. Just because a city is an experimental city doesn't mean you can't drive through it. You can't go shopping and everything else. The people that live in there don't even know that they're an experiment. It's the type of brainwashing that they do inside certain cities. Type of things they do. They're out there though. As far as I knew up until I woke up, I always heard about 7 of them. Well, now we know that there's at least 25 major ones, and there's probably even more than that now.
Okay, the political port was a channel title. Okay, I hadn't heard of that one.
No, I haven't heard of it. Well, maybe he was telling the truth because, and those are the ones that get shut down.
Yeah.
Who knows? It's tough. Yeah.
I have to question all of them anymore, Truth
Yeah.
Media puts out a lot of good videos and a lot of good information, but then you have to question it. You still have to question it.
Well, they want, I even, made a comment to them once because I said, you don't go all the way. They go onto this stuff and they get the historical stuff behind it. But how come you're not getting to the real juice? I've even given them juice before, some of the dirt and what's really happening behind this or that. And they don't want to touch it. You got to remember these people that are making money off these things, and they say they aren't, but they are. They don't like to go too far because they know what's going to happen. They know if they give you the real stuff, they're going to end up on the shit list. They're going to get cut out. They're going to get their channels dropped. Everything that I've had to go through.
Yeah.
And you have.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, you have to be expecting that, know that's going to happen to you, and not be in it for money. Because money's what's keeping you enslaved and trapped to begin with. And I know most people don't want to accept that neither. But that is
No.
the truth. Money is
No.
what keeps you enslaved to these people.
But you always say, "What we'll do without money? What we'll do without this and that?" When when many of the people that first came to this country before it was formed, they didn't have a monetary system. They farmed, they traded, they worked with the Indians. They didn't kill them. and until the British wanted to impose their taxes and their monetary system and everything else is when shit hit the fan.
Yeah.
Until you bring the money in, people actually live happily. They get along with each other. Then no matter what their race is or whatever, they seem to work with each other. It's when the I need more than you, when we can't work together, when money comes involved, that's when there's problems. Money creates anger, it creates ego, it creates greed. it it takes away from people's ability to make each other great, to help and work with each other, and it's tough, we've actually put so many people into a society where money's been around for so long. Yeah, we couldn't just take it away because it would be a mess. So, what do we do? We're in a situation that's really a tough one to answer. What we can do is find ways to stop the tyranny as it's existing today. And it's existing today in a very tyrannical way. They're limiting so much out there. There's so many things that I try to research now. I have to go back into my old research, saved research, because that stuff is not even there anymore.
Because they've
Because
scrubbed
it's
it
been
off the net.
scrubbed.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's been scrubbed.
So, if you don't think they're limiting you, it's going to be a step by step slow process. And by the time they get you right where they want you, you won't even notice it, which I guess won't be so bad because you won't notice it, right?
Well, the research is getting harder and harder because they've scrubbed so much of the information. Now you're going to end up having to go to a library somewhere, some big library. You're going to end up going through old magazines and old newspapers from years ago and old books and, in order to find anything because they keep scrubbing and scrubbing because they don't want us finding.
Well, and not only that, it's going to be harder for people to do because with social media, look at like Twitter, only has so many characters to put down. They want people to think in small bits and chunks and pieces. Or how many people that are supposedly awake and they're always asking me to give them all the information on this and that. Why am I doing all your research? I had to do my own and learn it, so I really believed it. Why should Here's the thing: is people just want everything,
Well,
and their brains can't think to go to a library and actually start pulling out some books and really looking into things.
I to a point I'll help somebody, but if they're not going to help themselves and start looking for themselves, then I have to stand with what Jerry said. I can help you as much as I can to guide you along, but you have to be willing to go look for yourself.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to look for yourself, then there's no point. Because if you're not willing to look for yourself, you don't want to educate any. You want everything handed to you.
Yeah. Well,
So she threw
that's
in the
where.
towel because she was one of the first channels to be demonetized, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't have to worry about that because I don't monetize anything because I don't do what I do for money.
Yeah. I don't mind if I was anything either. You know, just because it's I've thought about it so many times, but really, I mean, here's the thing: if you look at the amount of money they pay you, you actually have to have stuff that goes viral, right? To actually make anything more than like $1. you know
Yeah.
So, here's the thing: if they're never going to let me go viral, how the hell am I going to make any money? So I don't want to get put in a system where, all right, well, let me give the stuff that they want me to give because that's how it goes viral and that's how I can make money. So anybody that goes viral is just giving you what they want you to give you, whether it's truth or not. It has nothing to do with it. Sometimes they want you to know the truth. It's a big power trip for the elite to know that people out there know what they're up to and can't do anything about it.
Oh, yes, definitely, definitely. That is a big power trip. Them. Their egos are just swollen. They're
You know,
loving the hell out of it. They can just do it right in your face and know you ain't going to be able to do anything about it.
what was it? How many important people were there at the Manchester bombing, or not Manchester, the London Bridge attack or whatever? They caught them with a penthouse view, and then at 9/11, the people from the Bush family having a penthouse view of the buildings going down. How many times have these people been caught viewing their false flags? So, and you can put your ass with this Vegas room. Because it is Vegas and they got to have a big show. They had a viewing room for this Vegas false flag. I bet you they had cocktail waitresses serving champagne and everything else. While they were watching this happen,
Yeah.
could almost guarantee it.
Yeah, I would be. I would be sure that would be the truth. And they were sitting back watching it and laughing, loving
Yeah,
what they were doing.
yeah. That's how these things are done. So, here's the thing: is you keep on going after all these presidents, actors, and this and that. Well, how much is that going to change? How about like last year? How many times was the meme George Soros is going to jail or Hillary Clinton's going to jail? Have either one of them even been brought up on any charges?
Hell
And
no.
do you really think Putin's going to arrest these people? He's on the same team. He's a Mason just like the rest of them. He's in the same club. They're all on the same page.
They
We've
sure are.
never, the Cold War was bullshit. It was all a scam. Any hostility towards Russia has always been a scam. You got to remember the Bolsheviks took over Russia. The Bolsheviks are the same inside people that are freaking doing all the shit here. That they are basically the deep state. You know, people don't get that. There's nobody coming to save anybody. They want
No,
you to think that. That way you won't ever do anything. You won't get off your ass and do anything. If you think somebody's going to save you, oh, don't worry. The robots are going to save us. Putin's going to save us. The aliens are going to save us. No one's coming to save you. Get it out of your head.
exactly.
You got to save yourself. And if you're not willing to get up off your ass, well, what? Shit, there's been so many times I said to myself, I want to fight, but why should I? Why should I fight for anybody that doesn't even want to fight for themselves? Maybe these people in the public don't even deserve to have anybody fight for them. You
No,
know?
if you're not willing to fight for yourself, and I've said that so many times, even when it comes to the tool. You're up there talking about all this crap, but you have to have the tool, money, to do it. And if you have to have money to do it, what are you going to do if somebody's coming through your door? Oh, I'm sorry, they came through my window, they're raping my children, they're raping my wife, they're beating the hell out of my family, but unless you give me some of the tool, I'm not going to stick up for them.
you know? People don't get it. Our history has been nothing but a lie, a continuous lie for a very long time.
And
And
that's
it's not just.
why it burns Jerry up so much, and I understand his anger. Them posting a monument for the dead kids of Sandy Hook that never died. Because
Mm,
that's history in your face. They're creating fake history for children 100 years from now.
yeah. Yeah, that's why this whole monument thing really bothers me. Because you got to remember, I went to high school, and not many miles away from Sandy Hook. And it's right on the same river that we had our graduation and everything that my family has a cottage on. And I grew up in the area. I smoked pot in the woods in Sandy Hook. you know, and I don't want to ever think that they're gonna freaking put up a memorial for bullshit that happened. Somewhere close that I know. What if I got family they don't live in Sandy Hook, but they live right next to us, right near Sandy Hook. I mean, I don't want to every time I go visit them be thinking, you got to be shitting me. They have a memorial just right over there, about this.
Yeah,
It's not right. It's really not right.
it's
You
messed
know,
up. What you're
yeah,
doing is, you're taking all of your BS lies and you're putting that in the history book to teach the children who thinks they're being taught in school the real history, the real truth, or being taught more lies just like we was.
yeah.
And people just don't understand that this stuff's been going on forever. This is not an accident. It's all
No,
deliberate.
they've constantly been putting up, memorials for lies and monuments for lies. You know, I mean, just the word monument is a joke. It basically means phallus or phallus or whatever. However you say, it means penis. That's what monument basically means when you break it down. You know, it's a joke. It's a joke. You know, why don't you go see the big George Washington penis? Go to get your picture next to the George Washington. Did you ride up in the penis?
You
Did,
know,
did the elevator open and come out at the top of the penis?
yeah, did you come out? Did you come out the pee hole?
Yeah, I mean, they're laughing in people's faces, and so many, and people don't take the time to learn and understand how they're laughing at you. You know.
And then when you leave the monument after coming out the end of the penis, oh look, they're putting a catheter in.
Yeah. Yeah. So they got an elevator shaft right in the penis. Yeah. Nobody can figure it out. What kind of monument they're gonna leave for these fake dead kids? You know,
That poor
knowing
air
that
child.
knowing the Sandy Hook people, because as shady as they are, and they just want to steal everybody's money. They'll make it out of cardboard and tell everybody it's granite, and then take all the money and pocket it.
Well, I think we're all here from coming out of penis. That's true. I can't take that away from him. He's correct.
Yeah, we all came out of a penis. I just didn't want to come out of George Washington's penis.
We didn't have no choice of what penis we fell out of.
Yeah, and that's it's a joke. It's all a joke. And people getting distracted by this whole Russian narrative. And the Russian narrative is to distract people from China, because China's already taking over everything. Everybody knows, anybody that's in the understands a little bit about what's going on as far as New World Order is the Eastern Europe and China is where all the control of the New World Order is going to come from. That's where they plan on moving to. Why do you think they have all those ghost cities and everything else? When they exile, what they'll do is just like they've done throughout history. These evil Zionists, Masons, everybody else, is they're gonna, make it look like, everybody was so evil to them and wanted to kill them, and they're the victim, and they'll go over there and they'll start raping in that country. When I mean raping, I'm talking about far as stealing all their, people don't understand. Yes, these people, these elites, they did build the Industrial Revolution and they did build this country up good. But the problem is, instead of maintaining a solid, good lifestyle for the people, they just dug away at more resources, pushed people to have more and more and more, and it built people up so they can take as much as they can from them, and that was the downfall of it. Is you got to understand, anything you build up really fast is going to fall really hard. You need a steady growth with anything, but instead they like to just build things up really fast, and get as much as they can, and then once it falls apart, they just move on to the next place. And right now their target is China, and that's why China is, the SDR rights, and the new gold exchange and everything's moved over to China. Yeah, that's right. You might think that the world still is based off of the dollar, but it's not. It's already changed over to China, and that's where it's all going to be played from. And they'll use the guise of the UN, but China's going to be the new superpower. It already is, and they're just not telling everybody. Everybody's going to be a slave to China, and that's just how it's going to be. People just don't understand it. Why did they move?
China already has land in this country right now.
They're buying land like crazy in this country. They own the majority of the New World Trade Tower. They own everything. It's already here. It's already here.
Hello, happy life.
Yeah. Well, nice distraction, here. Look at no, China, Russia's the problem. Russia's the problem.
Oh yeah, Putin's a
Well,
good guy. I mean, come on, we got some people. Putin's a good guy, and we think that maybe he's on our side. He's going to help us.
oh yeah. They got half the country hating him and half the country freaking loving him when they don't even realize that China's the problem.
Yeah, it's like the psyops with our president that we have in office right now. I mean, it's the same thing. That's a big psyops. You got half the country hates they hate Bush's guts, and the other half wants Bush.
Yeah.
What does TFL stand for? TFL stands for True Force Loneliness.
Yeah. This is Bill's channel, and he does a whole bunch of dating topics and everything else. And
Well,
me
believe it or
and Bill,
not, yeah, dating scene topics is what woke
yeah,
me up to the problems in this country. Believe it or not,
yeah,
if it wasn't for the
and
dating scene topics, I wouldn't have woke up.
yeah, and that's why I'm on Bill's channel. Is I had a whole bunch of trouble on my channel, and we work together on a lot of research and other things, and help each other out. And I'm on here, and he's actually woken me up through a lot of those type of issues that I never even knew existed really so much. So that's why I'm over here. If that helps anybody, but it's definitely a good channel to subscribe to because at least out of so many people out there, Bill's one of the few people that can honestly say, he's telling you the truth as he sees it, and there's no outside bullshit or influence. And there's very few. Let me tell you something. When I first came into the truth community, I met a lot of people that are, you name it. They all had, some of them had big shows. Some of, I'm not going to mention names, but they, all over the place. And let me tell you something. I was disgusted. I was disgusted by what I saw, and I was lucky to, um, come across Bill because he was one of the only honest people that's been around researching these things for a long time. And I really can't stress enough how disgusted I was when I first fell into the truth community to see how much truth is really coming out, and it's nothing. It's nothing but crap. It's all about people either wanting to make money, running a scam, caring about how popular they are, or people that really just don't understand it.
That's it. That's exactly what you run into.
Yeah. So it's tough. It's a tough thing for people to get the truth anymore. I'm not saying that I know all or understand it all. I learn every day. But what I could say is, I'm not being influenced by any outside sources. I'm not, and there's nobody telling me what to think. There's nothing, convincing me of anything else. And which is why I had to run all the way to the Canadian border just to
It is. Well,
get away from these people.
and your last comment here is just incredibly hard to figure out who to believe.
It's hard. You're exactly weird. Me have been to Bill been talking about this all this past week. Because there's people that we've come across. We've listened to their stuff, we believe it, and then we find out they're nothing but crap. And it's one of the toughest things out there because number one, for the longest time since people my age or anything else, we used to come home, watch TV. We've been trained to trust so much on the television and on the screen that it's hard to really decipher this stuff anymore, especially when the government is becoming more intelligent and trying to use more and more people that seem to be just regular people to do this stuff. And it's really deceptive, and it's so difficult to find anything out there that you can trust. And the best advice I can give anybody you know is sometimes just reading, getting off of the screen. And when you start reading, you can sometimes you can notice right away if something's bullcrap. You can put it down and put something back up. But if you really want truth, the best place to go for truth is visit an old folks home where there's some older people out there and ask them. You'd be surprised by some of the answers. Even if they're not so much awake or whatever it may be, they might be able to. I remember when I was a kid. I lived in Connecticut, and in a community that had, that was around a lot of Jewish people. I used to hear the old people talk about all the time how the Jews always lie, how the Jews always lie. But now all those old people are gone. You don't hear about them. I remember hearing the older people talk, and I came from a family where they were Jewish. My father's family wasn't, and my mother's family was. And I remember hearing my aunt and my mother talking about how the Anne Frank, story was all nothing but bullshit, and they were just laughing about it. How everybody else, how the goy believed the story, you know. So when I get in I stopped getting into fights with people on the whole Anne Frank thing because the writer came out and admitted that the story was fake. And you can even show people the evidence of that, and people just can't believe it. They don't want to believe it. They don't want to accept it. So I gave up on it. There's so many things that if people really truly understand, especially Christians, they care about the Jews and that. Yeah, I mean, if they even understood how much the Jewish community laughs at them and thinks they're crap, it astonishes you when you actually see Christian people that want to, like, oh, don't say anything bad about the Jewish people or anything like that. They think they're God chosen one or something like that. If you really understood what Jewish people really thought of Christians, it would probably make most people throw up. Because throw up is like better than what the Jewish people think of Christians. If you want to know the truth, and that's the truth. I mean, I've been around Jewish people all my life. So, I mean, but you can tell people to your right on the nose. That ain't gonna make a difference. People just don't want to accept it. They don't want to accept the truth. How many times I've told people the story. They talk about the Good Samaritans in the Bible. Well, the Samaritans are actually the Jewish people, but the Jewish people stole their history, in Babylon when they got in trouble and were sent there. When they were imprisoned in Babylon, they stole all the ancient knowledge and the Hebrews' history. And that's how you ended up with these fake Jewish people that are, they call themselves Jewish. They're not Jewish, they're Samaritans. They're Samaritan thieves, Khazars. They're all the same. They're thieves. They're thieves and liars. And they're still doing it to this day. Their behavior has not changed. And, they only keep their same bloodline going because they don't want to dirty it with any other Christians or goy. But yet those are the people always sticking up for them. And they're continuing to steal all your money and lie to you. And nope, you still got to protect them.
That's right. They hate your guts, and you stand up for them.
Yeah. That's the funny thing. I mean, it's like they sit there, do every wrong thing they could possibly do to you. And they even teach their own Jewish people that they have to do wrong to the goy, because if they do enough wrong, it'll bring back their Messiah. So they even brainwash their own people. The most Jewish people, and you got to feel sorry for them because they're not bad people. They're just very brainwashed. Most Jewish people are so brainwashed. That's it's sickening. It's not their fault. These elite people, elite Jews, the elite Zionist Mason Jews that run the world, have brainwashed the entire world, and it's a tradition that's been handed down. People don't want to accept that they were the people that were behind the Romans. That the Vatican has always been run by the Jewish Zionists. They don't want to accept that the Bolsheviks were Jewish. They don't want to accept that the Nazis were elite Jewish. They don't want to accept any of this, but it's a fact. And it's whether you like it or not, it's a fact. All you have to do is study it. I mean, it's straight up. You don't want to find out that the Old Testament was written after the New Testament. They don't want to accept these things because it scares the shit out of them.
Yep, the invisible man in the sky said the Jews are always ahead of the white race.
Uh-huh. I mean, if you really look at the history, Originally, if you go back to pre Samaritan, pre Philistine days, it was written that the Hebrews were the stupid slaves. And they somehow were smart enough to turn that around. you know?
No, there's a lot of Jews that are just as asleep, are just as used and lied to as the rest of us.
Well, actually, more, I think, in most cases, because I've dealt with a lot of Jewish people. I think they're actually, some of them are awake, but there's many of them that are just as, actually more brainwashed than the American people.
Yeah, because you got to remember, it's not every single Jew that's running the world or all the money or all the everything you hear.
Yeah, it is. Not every single one of them, but and when it comes, well, as
Well,
far
what
as
I'm saying by
control
every
goes, they're
single
all
one, I
Jewish.
mean,
But it's not, every one of them. The majority of Jewish people are brainwashed, and they're in the same situation we are, and just a little bit different.
yeah,
You know,
they're not the ones pulling the strings.
sometimes you get mad at some of these Jewish people that treat the Palestinians so bad, but you also have to remember the fact that these Jewish people that are treating the Palestinians so bad, have been brainwashed to do so. So it's not even, they may not be such a horrible person, but if they're told from a child, every day of their life, especially if you live in Israel, that the Palestinians are nothing but terrorists that want to kill you, by the time you're an adult, you actually do think that. If that's how
Yeah.
you're told it every single day of your life.
Yeah, you would be
you know,
because that's all you've ever heard your whole life. So that's what you're going to believe.
yeah. And if the media is always saying that, and you're always being told that, you're always being taught that in school, what are you going to think about the Palestinians? What they're doing to the Palestinians is very wrong. It's horrible. But we also have to understand the type of brainwashing that's being done to these people that are doing all these horrible things. And to do those horrible things is just as wrong also. Because if they didn't do this brainwashing and all this type of things, if they didn't, if they said, every day they said, we're, all the nice Palestinians had a nice day, and they, planted a garden over here, and the people from Israel joined them, and this and that, what would happen? Over time, people would get along. But instead, when Mossad plants a bomb and kills, some Palestinian kids, they turn it around and say that it was a Palestinian people, terrorist, planting a bomb that killed Israeli kids.
Mm-hmm.
you know, yeah. Look at Rahm Emanuel's father. Rahm Emanuel's father was a senior Mossad agent that was involved in the blowing up the King David Hotel, which was an Israeli hotel that they intentionally bombed. Well, there were some British military people in there that died, and then blamed it on Palestine. And we elect this guy. He wasn't just in Obama's in the White House. Now he's the mayor of Chicago, one of the most corrupt cities, of course. But think about that. One of the mayors of one of the biggest cities in the United States. His father was like one of the lead heads of Mossad. You don't think he isn't? Of course he is. Those type of things are generational.
Yeah.
Just like Daddy Bush and Bush Jr.
Well, there's no saying it's I find to be true. If you got a serial killer, somebody goes out and kills 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 people. We all chase them down and we go after them. We want to catch them. We want to lock them up. We call them a monster. But if you kill 5 million people, you become a king. Everybody leaves you
Yeah.
alone.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough, and it was the practice of these, once they stole some of this ancient knowledge for the group of people, they planned on it. It was to, use that knowledge and marry themselves into the kings and queens of Europe,
Yeah.
and all over the world. So they integrated themselves into these families all over the world using the knowledge that they stole.
Yeah, we have Happy Troll with us.
We have what?
Happy Troll.
Happy Troll.
Yeah, well, look at Happy Life.
Oh.
Read his comment. So I say Happy Troll. He says he bows down to God or to a Jew when he sees him, and then he says, "Oh, bow down," blah blah blah, and he's uncomfortable with what we're saying about the Jews.
Which God? Which God would he like? Us to bow down to? Because I mean, according to the real history, there's multiple gods.
Yes.
Yeah. Although I do have to agree with Happy Life, Jewish girls do give the best blowjobs. I always liked Jewish girls. I mean, living in the Northeast, Jewish girls are great today. I mean, they're pretty girls. I always liked Jewish girls. I never had a problem with Jewish girls. You know. Well, I mean, if he's happy troll there or whatever, he doesn't like talking about God, I could tell him the real truth about Christ, and the whole allegory about the winter solstice, and how the Orion's belt lines up with the southern crux and stars, and that's to signify Christ. But the real Christ actually belongs in you. Every person is Christ, because the part of the pineal gland excretes an oil called the Christo, and the Christus oil goes all the way down into the back of your spine, and at certain times, once a month, portion of that, less than around 10% of that oil can go back up, as long as you don't drink any alcohol or alkali in your body too much. And if that crystal oil goes back up and it cruxes or crucifies in that part of the brain, it will bring you on a path of enlightenment. It will actually increases your brain activity. So, there we go. Zach's got something. 61 Jesus, 61 cross, 61 U, church 61, celerity 61, and Christmas 61. Well, 6 plus 1 equals 7, right? But 61, the cross. No, I'd like to know is what's King of the Jews? What does that come up with, Zach? I'd like to know what King of the Jews comes up with. That would be an interesting one. Actually, it was Zach that when he was telling me, if he explained it, maybe I'm not explaining it right, but when it comes to monument equals 101, and it's the 26th prime, which is phallus, if I'm getting it right, phallus. Yeah, and that's how the monument equals phallus. But I think we've always known monument was a phallus because it goes back to those Sumerian days, or those those ancient days when they worshipped the phallus, and they built these monuments shaped like a penis. you know you know so, well, does wine lower your brain activity? It has nothing to do with so much lowering your brain activity. What it is the alkalinity, the alkaline in the alcohol. It's the alcohol that can, at certain times of the month, could disrupt, increased brain activity. So it's not always that wine is bad for you. It's just, you got to regulate that alkalinity in your body. You know, and it's everything is a little bit of a balance in life. And even if you're still stuck on religion, it's not saying that you have to jump off the religion board and disbelieve anything else. It's balance it out with learning about the history of a religion. Balance it out with, maybe learning a different religion, and learning about other things, because sometimes just crossing over, learning about different things will help you, enlighten yourself. Yeah, so I was right about the monument and phallus. Yeah. Oh, that's why the 26 dead at Sandy Hook. Ah, that makes sense. I wonder if Zach even saw that video I did today about Ave Maria. Like I've told people before about Heritage Village and its connections to the Mossad, and it's a little private Jewish community right next to Sandy Hook, Connecticut. I'm not going to tell people why. I understand that this Ave Maria is a private Jesuit community. Okay, now I can't remember his full name, but Tom Monahan. He used to own the Detroit Lions, if I remember correctly, and he also started Domino's Pizza. Well, he goes to Florida and starts this private Jewish community in southern Florida, right outside of Naples, called Ave Maria. They build a big, giant, weird church on it and a Jesuit university. And, there's connections of people that live there to money that's been moved around for these false flags. And, so I'd love to find out, any of the weird stuff, anything with these Jesuits down in the Ave Maria. Because I've been able to find. You don't find. Let me tell you something. When it comes to the Jesuits, you don't find too much on them. In current years, you can find a lot of historic stuff, but new stuff is kind of, it's not always easy to find. Bill,
I'm right here.
yeah, right there. Yeah. So they said Zach was spamming. Well, what's the matter? You can't make more. He only came in and made like 5 comments, and then they call him spamming. What kind of bullcrap is that?
No, he's not spamming.
No, he's not. You know. Yeah. Poor Zach. Zach comes in for like 1 second, and they freaking knock him right out. Shut down the whole chat or whatever because it's not even moving now. Well, I feel for Zach. He's gone through a lot of the same things that I have. So I mean, it's that's what I'm saying is people don't understand when there's people that are actually giving you the real truth and have an understanding of some of these things. The hell we catch and just the weirdness of some of the things we go through in a daily life. People would be amazed. They don't see it because we don't put it out there. Just like many of my trolls on YouTube or Facebook or anything else. I delete them right away. I have to block them right away, or else they just start, flagging all my videos and everything else. So as soon as I see them, I have to delete them. But the other side of that is people don't get to see what they're doing. That's why I've made videos in the past and, of screenshots because, literally when I block them, I make a screenshot, block them, and they're gone because, I don't want them around giving me any more trouble. So, people don't always get to see them and see how much harassment they give me or anything else. And, that's like that video that got sent to me about the guy that wanted to challenge me to a duel with knives. I mean, who challenges somebody nowadays with a kniving duel? I mean, you know, you know.
maybe he was reincarnated from the old days. And he's using a knife for the sword.
I know. I mean, what the hell kind of duel is that? Yeah, but this is some of the kind of stuff I deal with. And then, the guy was dead serious. If you watch the video, I sent it to Jim Fessner. He looked at it and he was like, "Holy shit!" That's some of the most bizarre things in the world that you just wouldn't believe. It is bizarre. You know, a kniving duel. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll be right on that. you know, what are you gonna do? But this is the kind of crazy we have to deal with. It's tough. When George Carlin says it's a big club and you're not in it, none of us are in it. And the problem is their club is very selective. And it's not so much selecting, people. It's selecting, they make sure that club that the police are a part of it, that our government's a part. It's not that it's always super wealthy people that are a part of it. It's the people that belong to the system are a part of it.
Well,
So
Zachary came in and he brought numbers up right away, and
yeah,
of course that threw people for a loop. And
oh yeah,
I don't know anything about numbers. The only thing I know about numbers is I know all of our corporations and all of our companies go by numbers,
it's all about numbers. It
and
really,
everything's
it
about
is.
numbers.
You know, Well, it's tough. Is when I first started, one of Zach's videos was one when the Uber incident happened. And, I was looking online. I was like, "Is there anything about this?" There were like three people that had something on the fake Uber shooting, and Zach was one of them. So I mean, it was great to see that. Good. At least there's some other people out there that are already on this. And the thing is, it took me a while to start understanding the gematria, the numbers behind these things. But you got to understand that these people that do these things do everything by the numbers, and that's why these numbers are so important. And the more you watch, go to Zach's channel. Anybody out there, just go to Zach's channel. You're not going to understand, his videos right away. You need to watch many of them, and you wait a month or so, and you're slowly going to start to see, okay, wait a second, now I'm starting to get it. There is a rhythm to this. There is a sequence to this. This is starting to make sense. So you won't get it right away, but once you watch enough, you'll start to get it. And once you start to get it, it starts to lift open the veil even more, and it can get creepy because you start to really realize, holy shit, this stuff is what they're doing out here in the world. What they're doing to us is really fucked up, and how they do it is really fucked up. But you got to understand, this is what they're doing. Like I said earlier, is a lot of people don't want to accept these things. They don't want to accept the insanity of what's really going on. That literally things that are portrayed to you as real events and everything else. Really, the whole story was done by numbers, and you got to understand this. These ancient ritualistic, kabbalistic, you know, uh, um, sequences have always been done. And they look at it like this. This is how they've always done it, and it works. So that's how they do it. That's just how they do it. They stick to their practice. And what me and Zach have talked about before is, you know, it, the good part of it is that they're trapped in a system. Okay, so once we recognize the system, that can help us understand what the hell they're doing, and that can help us understand when they're going to do it, and many other things. And me and Zach talked about, because I understand a lot about the symbology and a lot of things, and he understands the number. We can get these things together. We can fit it in. So yeah, his book is going to be out in a couple of weeks, so people can check that out. But I mean, it's the codes. People have no idea. They've been doing this codes forever, and you got to think about it. Look at whether it's Washington D.C. or any of these cities laid out on a grid or anything else. What's a grid? A grid's nothing but numbers. Everything's laid out by the numbers. And Tesla even said the 3, 6, and 9. It's the world works mathematically, and they believe they're doing things that work within the world's mathematic code to their advantage. And if we got to understand how they're doing it, so you can see how they're doing these things. So it's you won't understand these things right away, but little at a time you'll get it.
Did Zachary write this as like for dummies, for people to be able to, like from a beginning, to be able to understand it?
It says, yeah, it's written for beginners. So yeah, because it's not always easy to get it and understand it. You know, Sandy Hook won't tell that. Look up. Well, no.
That's good. That's good.
Written for dumbers. Well, that's everybody then. Majority of living in a
I
world
had
for.
to ask him because that's really what it comes down to.
Well, people need to understand it. I mean, Zach's a master at it. And I mean, I'm. One thing I've actually even talked about with you, Bill, is I've been a little hesitant to try and learn it myself because it scares me. It does scare me. I've seen enough of the veil lifted, and when you really start to get what the hell's going on, it's scary to, it's just really, it's unpleasant to know we live in a world like this, that this is happening. And the numbers are, that's another level of the veil being lifted away, and to start understanding. And it gets a little scary, that you're going to really, sometimes sometimes you don't want to, just that cognitive dissonance. You don't want to, understand everything, So it's tough. It really is tough. Yeah. He said, well, it's just like, yeah, well, we'll have to get you a book, Bill.
Yeah. Well,
If you're really so you can
I
understand.
was just gonna ask him. When he gets his book out, if he can come over to my channel and send me a link or something, or come on the show, give me a link, or give it to Jerry. To
Yeah.
where I can get
You're
his
pushing
book.
out there.
Where I can get his book, I'll definitely buy one of his books from him.
Well, that's the thing I was just talking about earlier. People got to go back to reading books, because trusting things from online is it's it's not so good anymore.
Well,
You know,
no, I don't plan on ending a live stream anytime with Jerry anytime soon. But you know how that goes. YouTube could end it for us.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's why I got a live stream here. They want what is it? 1 year. I got a year that I can't even go live on my own channel. That's ridiculous because I got one strike, so they gave me 6 months, and then I got another strike right when my next 6 months were up. So that's another 6 months.
Yeah.
So going live for me is going to be a ridiculous long time. So you know that kind of stinks, but whatever. I mean, I enjoy doing it here at TFL, and you know, it's a good way to get the information out there.
Yeah, it is, and it helps to be able to do the live streams, and so I'm happy that we're up here with the live stream. I'm actually happy Zachary showed up in here because Jerry and I've been talking about, it, and I can understand he's scared of the numbers, but I'm still
Well,
interested in learning it.
well, no, while Zach's there listening, I got to make sure because I forget a lot. Remind myself or remind Zach to remind him to remind me to give him some of the hidden codes that I worked out on the whole what you call it the Shepherds of Acadia, because I solved a lot of that whole puzzle more than other people, I think, than anyone else in the world, and but I haven't talked about it because I don't want to if I can just give out all my work, but he might be able to help me with some of the codes. The only thing is, for some reason, I don't think those are so much by the numbers. But then again, I don't know. Everything seems to be by the numbers. You know.
Yeah, as long as your video's up, it don't matter if it's in private. If it's even if it's in private, you can still get the strike. The only way out of it's to remove it.
Yeah.
You
For
have
the
to
to
delete
what?
it. You have to delete it before a
Yeah.
strike gets put on it. Yeah,
Yeah.
but she's saying she had it in private, so nobody could view it, and she still got a strike. Yeah, because it
Yeah.
was uploaded and you didn't delete it.
Yeah. Because you got to understand these trolls and everybody else. You have no idea how many people there are out there that I catch trolls all the time. I even watch. I watch even positive statements on my channel. If they're positive statements and they're not written the right way, and I check out their channels and everything else, I mean, if there's anything I sense that's not even right, I block them, because there's so many people out there that will deceive just a little bit to get into watching your shows, and then that's how they can flag you. They don't have to be somebody that sits there and writes negative comments or anything all day. You could be getting flagged by somebody that you think likes your videos.
Yeah.
So you can't trust anybody anymore. So that's one thing I look through. I mean, even if I have the slightest inkling or sense that something's not right about that person, even if it's a positive comment, I block them. And I'm sure I probably blocked a lot of the wrong people by not intentionally so much, but I just had to didn't feel like getting flagged on every single thing, because that happens. you know, people, there's people out there that don't want the truth to come out. There's other people that are suffering from cognitive dissonance. People just can't accept the truth and want to destroy anything that doesn't go along with what they believe. And there's also, like I said, there's a lot of people that are mentally ill that I've come across. Some of these trolls are just seem to not be right. And the brainwashing program worked on them better than it has on others. So they're really going to believe what they're told. There's a lot of this country is suffering from a mass sickness. It's been created through social engineering. It's been created through brainwashing. It's been created through the money manipulation. It's been created by consumerism. And I'm not saying I'm a communist or a socialist. I don't believe in those ideas either. I just think that we've became such a consumeristic society that it's all about money. There's one hint, that or one piece of advice my grandmother used to give me and my sister, and she always said, "Don't make money your god," and that's the key.
Yeah.
You can't put money up there on a pedestal that you have to have it, that you need this or that. There's, one thing I learned, when the police threw me out of the house and threw me out of the state and told me they're going to shoot me and I was on the run, I was living in my car for basically like a week or 2 weeks. And, I survived, but, the people I met along the way and, what I realized I can live without made me a better person. And I realized there is nothing to fear, that money isn't so important, that the kindness people share with each other, that stranger that you meet that helps you here or there or whatever it is.
Okay,
Those
so
are,
yeah. So she says it was a saved video of someone else's. I didn't make it. But if you uploaded it onto your channel, they still can flag you for it.
yeah, they can flag you for copyright. I mean, it could have automatically copyrighted stuff with these new algorithms, because if you download it, you can download an embedded piece that YouTube puts in it or something like that somebody else put in it. If that recognizes that embedded algorithm or whatever it is, you can snap you for it. So it doesn't take much nowadays.
No, it doesn't. I can remember the first video I ever lost off YouTube was a talking head video. Had nothing in it but me, with the camera pointed at me giving my opinion, and it was taken down for copyright strike. I always laughed at it because I knew I had to have copyrighted myself, but YouTube can take you out for any reason they just make up. They'll just make it up and take you out.
Yeah. That's what they did with me. My last one, just bullshit, harassing and bullying. I didn't even know what it was for. Which it just I didn't even know who did I harass. It's crazy. Oh.
Well, you know what happened, Jerry, don't you? You told the
Yeah. Well.
truth, and when you told the truth, that means you were bullying all the liars.
Oh yeah, that's it. Well, that's the crazy thing. In all my videos now, I gotta almost make the statement: I'm not bullying this person, I'm not bullying that person, or whatever it is. You know.
Yeah, you almost have to come right out and say this is not intended to bully nobody or harass anybody. If you don't like what I'm talking about, please leave.
Yeah. There's nothing you can do about it. So. So what are you gonna do, Bill? I don't know.
There's not a lot we can do. I'm not going to shut up. I'm going to keep fighting back.
Hey, I think the biggest thing you got to let go of that money. It's funny. I remember, before I was awake, I used to, I had my business. I used to have these, always go online and look at fancy houses and fancy cars and, all this nice stuff. Just dream, if I just won the lotto, or if I, just made it big, I can get this, I can get that, I can get. And once I woke up and I started realizing more and more what's important in this world, and it's something that left me, left that whole, get and get, I can get, that part of me just disappeared, and it's so much of a happier life. And I don't, it's funny, I don't go online anymore and look at stuff. I know to just kind of notice it myself. I don't go online anymore and look at fancy stuff. I realize I don't even want that stuff. I never really did want that stuff. It was somehow ingrained in me that we think we need all this stuff. You know, and once you let go of that, you could find so much more happiness. being happy with the people around you, the people you meet, building things yourself, whatever it is. Bill knows I like to tinker, I like to build things. I enjoy that more than I can ever imagine buying the nicest version of it, because you get yourself, your a sense of accomplishment for building something or doing something. And it's when people wake up, you don't realize how lucky you are that you did wake up, because you get to look at life in a way that so many people can't. They just can't. And if you can do that, make sure you start to see the good that is around you. That there are some great things around there, that not all people are bad. You got to remember, just because people are brainwashed doesn't make them a bad person. There could be somebody that's so brainwashed in their political thoughts, but when you actually talk to them about, if it's a neighbor about their garden or something like that, or over a cup of coffee or whatever, they can actually be nice people. So just now that you have the ability to be awake and start understanding the bullshit in this world, I think it should come with some responsibility to share that information too, but also a responsibility to make sure that you respect yourself enough to love yourself enough to be a little bit kinder in this world. Because I do get angry at just the bullshit and nonsense that people fall for all the time. But you know what? When I look at other people, I don't look at them like they're idiots. You give everybody the respect that they deserve, because nobody's going to listen to you if you put up too much of a wall. But we do have to start going out instead of just talking online more, because this whole campaign that me and Bill started, Boots on the Ground, it was all about getting people out there when there's a false flag and getting them to that false flag right away if one happens in your area, and getting pictures, information, everything.
That's it.
You have to get out there and do something. And of course, now, the Facebook page kind of got screwed up. So we had to change it. So the Facebook page is Boots on Strong, and the Twitter page is at Boots on Strong. And the reason we have the strong there is because the United Nations Strong campaign was all about, their, notifying the United Nations of these false flags. And they leave these shoes and boots behind, and it's a Masonic symbolism to show that they had a completed mission. And we're saying that, the mission ain't complete because we caught you. So it's not a mission complete. You failed the mission. So that's why we stole the word strong and put it on there.
Yeah, we just figured we'd use their own word back on them.
Yeah,
That's really what
but
that was about.
yeah,
And what Jerry just said, that's really what it's about. If you can get people that'll go out there, if it happens in their area with a camera and and film this and get it up for people to see, that's what's important, because the camera's not going to lie. It's going to show what really took place.
yeah. And you know what? I mean, don't be scared to get out there in the public anymore. So many people are trapped. They see it as, it is a screwed up world. We know they're always constantly doing all these screwed up things, but we can have an impact on the world by getting out there, and not spending so much time on our computers, and not well, even if it is learning something from YouTube or whatever. We're starting to find out that there's more and more crap on YouTube, that we're finding out it's all bullshit on there. So you know what? Turn off the Facebook, turn off the social media, and get out there. Get out there, whether it is to a library or park or whatever.
That's
You
it.
know, as the freedoms slip away, who knows how much time we have, sometimes with these things to enjoy them to the point where they're, just, totally destroyed. So, get out there and enjoy life. That's the best way to beat, an elite oligarchy or whatever the heck you want to call it, New World Order, Illuminati, whatever, is to be out in public, trying not to spend any money, part of their control issues, not being tied down to some kind of device where They're always trying to spread their message to you somehow, some way, and meeting people and enjoying life. That's the most important thing you can do to beat these people is to get outside and be in public.
Well, that's actually the best way because it's going to get down to the point where you're not going to be able to do it online anymore. Anyhow, it's going to eventually come to that point.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we'll come to that point. I think they're going to change it so much that people don't notice it change. That's how they do these things.
Well,
They'll
that's
slowly.
so, but getting
Yeah.
out there in public and actually going out and meeting people is going to do good for you. Do good for
Yeah.
everybody. Because people have lost their ability to communicate with other people to begin with. So maybe you can bring some of the communication back that way as well.
Yeah. Well, we'll get there.
Oh, yeah. I see we got a few people in the room with us here.
Yeah. I was just looking for trolls. I was on troll alert. I was on troll alert. Yeah, TFL MGTOW is that guy again. You got to get
90 seconds.
Yeah, our
Talking
TFL
about-
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
I've just been blowing him off. If he starts attacking people in the chat room, he'll be out of here real quick. Like,
Well, he's gonna flag it anyway, so he's got to be blocked. Block him, Phil. I'm telling you. Yeah. Because he's gonna start.
60 seconds.
Oh, you already got him?
I took him out.
Yeah, I saw that. That's that same guy. I already saw that.
And who knows, he might be back here in about a minute.
That's usually how we were. He's pretty quick. He's opening up new accounts.
Now the radio show's getting ready to end, and it's up to Jerry if he wants to carry on or if he wants to call it a night. So for the people that's in here, we're in the last minute for the live radio show, but it's up to you if you want us to carry on here live, and that'll be up to Jerry as well.
Yeah, we can cut it for tonight. I'm a little tired.
Yep. Okay, guys. Well, then we're going to get on out of here because our show's pretty much down to 14 seconds. So I'll be
10 seconds.
Not even that now. I'll be back up tomorrow night with a warn at 9 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time for dating scene topics, TFL topics. Until then, guys, I guess you all have a good one.
Good night, everybody.